here's something I noticed, right? All the goth and emo girls that I knew growing up are in Sinn Féin now. What's the pipeline there? How the fuck did that happen? You know, I swear to God there must be a million women out there with tattoos that used to say My Chemical Romance that they've had to since change to say Mahara. Listening to too many bands like 32 Counties to Mars. Bullet in the Post for My Valentine. Listening to songs like I'm Not UK. It's a wee Sinn Féin corner over there, isn't it? What's the story? Who are you? I was about to say. Who was that?
Who's asking?
Who's asking? Yeah, that is the Sinn Féin corner, isn't it? It's like, tell him nothing, mate, tell him nothing. What's your name, boss? Patter. You had to think about that for too long to be a real name. That's got to be an alias, Patter. What's the story, Patter? I was about to say, who do you work for? What do you do for a living, Patter?
I work at Loud Guitars.
That was sorry, someone got subtitles there. You work at Loud Guitars.
Loud in Guitars.
You Loud in Guitar. Oh, okay. For a second I thought you said I'm allowed in guitars. I was like, oh, okay. This is the guy. This is our guitar gimp. He's allowed to fuck the guitars. He's been given special permission. Here's something that I read recently as well. Right. See, if you're pregnant and you drink a cup of coffee, right, it takes 4 hours for the caffeine to leave the system of the mother, and it takes 4 days for the caffeine to leave the system of the baby, right? Crazy, you know? And I also heard if you're pregnant and you drink a can of Monster Energy, right, your baby will take 31 years to get a job. And to be allowed in guitars, apparently. How's that for Patter? Shit. I'm having a nice time already. Did you ever hear shortest saddest story ever told? It's 26 words by Ernest Hemingway. It's for sale, baby shoes never worn. Right? I know, that is sad because nobody likes an ungrateful baby. Oh, you're not even going to try them on? Okay, well. Worst fucking Christmas ever. So, yeah, I tell people I come from Tullycarnet in East Belfast because it makes me sound hard. Because Tullycarnet's very Protestant and I'm Catholic, so people go, ooh, you know, oh, there may be an ice rink, but does he have the knees to use it? But I'm actually from the incredibly well-off suburb right next to it. I'm from Dundonald, right? So I have seen poverty and I have seen strife, but it was through the window of my conservatory. Thank you for that. Yeah, I don't even try and hide the fact that I'm middle class anymore, because I look like this and I sound like this and I smell like this. And, you know, I think there's a test you can do as well to see if you're middle class. You can do it in your head right now, even right this very moment. When you were a child, if you burped in front of your dad, right, did he A, say, oh, charming, in a sarcastic voice, or B, he wasn't there? That's the test. It's either potpourri for breakfast or no breakfast at all. But yeah, a little bit about my family. My mum did this thing the other day. She's scared of wasps, right? And because we all know a wasp is just a bee from the short strand. And my mum did this thing the other day. There was a wasp in the room, right? And she understandably, she freaked out. She left the room. That makes sense. What she did next? Didn't, right? Closed the door on the wasp. Locked the door. Who's that for? I'd absolutely freak out if the handle started to jiggle. The phone starts to ring. Let me fucking in! Give me a cheer if you don't think that you speak to your parents enough and you feel guilty. By the way, it's the quality of crowd work we're doing. I'm accusing this guy of fucking a guitar, and then I'm like, tell me about your relationship with your family. I used to feel guilty about not calling my parents enough and not staying in touch. But my parents have done retirement really well. You know, they retired and they immediately got like gym memberships and cool hobbies, and my mum can bench press me now. And now I sound like the uncool one when I'm calling to hang out. I'm like, we should hang out sometime. And they're like, well, actually, son, we're abseiling tomorrow afternoon, and then after that we have an appointment for pegging. We're trying pegging. It's a charity peg, so we can see you after, but you must wash your hands. I must wash my hands? Okay. Yeah, crazy. You guys hear about that Loch Ness thing with all the algae, yeah? Oh, Somebody cheered for Algie there. I mean, these lights are pretty bright, but is anybody here Algie? Is any Algie? Any single cell organisms in tonight? Any couple cell organisms in tonight? Is there a Mrs. Condria? She's the powerhouse of the relationship, but that's a double word science joke, and I did single word science. I told my partner she didn't even realise that single word science even exists, but it does. It's when they light the Bunsen burner to go fire hot. Hot. Okay. Interesting.
I just am worried about that because the algae is in they say it's in some of the drinking water now. Apparently, there's some talk about that, and I use a bidet. So I mean, all the fish that I keep in my asshole have died. But
God, I know I already said it, but I'm just so appreciative of you all to be here for this. I mean, you know, potentially humiliating gig, because, like, in the same way that any gig is potentially humiliating, because I think, you know, in stand-up comedy sometimes it's kind of trying to fool people into thinking that I have the power over the room, whereas really there's 120 of you. At any point, you can just beat the fuck out of me. You can just, nah, we've had enough of this guy. Fuck him. I mean, like, you don't even have to do physical violence to me. You could just decide collectively not to laugh for the rest of the gig and just ruin my night. So it's very much this weird, like, a little illusion that I'm trying to pull here. Here's something about Northern Irish culture no one ever talks about, right? Is we love sticking a defibrillator on something these days, don't we? We're constantly sticking a defibrillator on stuff. I feel like it says a lot about this country that we're trying to make something dead live. And we're trying to make it work. I swear to God, there's on the Craigie Road, there's a funeral home with a defibrillator out the front. Such optimism, isn't it? Like, the horse has bolted, they are dead. He's not coming back. But I mean, and we exist in this weird moment in the country. I feel like, you know, the entirety of Ireland's getting a wee bit funny about refugees at the minute. You know, we're getting a wee bit. And you know, there's obviously people have their different opinions on it. I just think it's weird the anti-refugee people, they use such strange rhetoric. You know, they're sending these young military-age men into this country. They're sending these young, strong, fit military-age men into this country. They're sending these young, hot, fuckable military-age men into this country. If I have to fuck every single one of them out of this country, I will. I'll do it myself. I mean, military age. What even is military age? Anyway, what the fuck is that? Because I've been to Newton Ards, right? Where not to brag. Because I've been to Newton Ards, right? Military age. I've seen a pensioner punch a swan there, so. That guy's prepared for peace and ready for war. Because it's just waterfall. Yeah, I feel like everyone, like, I had to do jury duty last year, and I feel like it really put me in touch with the soul of the country, and it made me realise they shouldn't do jury duty anymore. It shouldn't be a thing. It was on jury duty for murder trial. Actually, something a bit worse than murder, but that doesn't lend itself to comedy, so we're going to say murder. We're going to say nice, wholesome murder, and they shouldn't do it anymore, you know? They shouldn't do it anymore. Not murder, obviously. I mean, I think they need to make this murder stuff illegal, if you ask me. And if that's controversial, well, fuck you, you know. No, I don't think they should be doing jury duty as a thing anymore. Like, getting people from the public and asking them to make life or death decisions about people. Like, people aren't particularly smart, you know. People brought back Big Brother. People decided to pull pork, you know. We looked at pork and we're like, this is too pushed. This pork's too straight. We gotta sort it out, you know. I didn't like the binary of it, you know. I didn't like the binary of the old jury duty, you know, like guilty or not guilty, you know. I feel like we need to have other options. We need to be able to go up to the judge and go, we, the jury, find the defendant to be cringe. Guilty in a court of law. In a court of law. I always feel like that's too specific, isn't it? Like, you don't need to specify you've been found guilty in a court of law. Like, no one's ever been found guilty in a court of tennis. So, obviously this suit is like it's a leftover from that. And, you know, I wore it in the poster, so now I have to fucking wear it here. I've not washed it since the wedding it was bought for. I look like a politician who's been fired for tweets of some sort. Look like I'm canvassing for the SDLP, like. What's your stance on abortion? Yeah, me too. Whatever. Whatever yours is, that's mine. Just do it, you know. Listen, I'll dye the beard when you make me Deputy First Minister. Till then, you get the badger patch. I'm a little too concerned about my parents. It's a real problem in my life, you know. It holds me back, even, you know. Like I would stop me from going on nights out, even, you know. Sometimes I would text my friends and be like, "Can't come out tonight, lads. Ugly," you know. I would call in sick for work sometimes with doctor notes that say, "Yeah, look, can't come into work today. He's not fuckable enough. He's got chronic 4 out of 10 syndrome. He's a failure to slay." And my boss is like, "Do you have to be fuckable to work in this school?" I started going to the gym. You definitely can't tell. You can't tell. I started going to... Do you know why you can't tell? It's because when I started going to the gym, the times that I went to the gym suddenly coincided with an urge to take the biggest shit of my life. I'd be in the gym for an hour and a half, 45 minutes, shitting, right? And like, I'm not losing weight, and I've had to start lying to my partner about it. I've had to start talking about the toilet in the gym like it's another machine in the gym. I come home, she's like, "Oh, it was the gym." I was like, "Well, new PB today." In this case, PB stands for poopy butthole. It's like, "Whoa, how much you lifting?" Like, it's more how much I'm dropping. You must be losing a lot of weight. I'm like, in a sense, for a moment I am, you know. Trying to go for that hot serial killer look that's all the rage these days. I feel like this is the thing, you know, we need to stop letting people who want to fuck the serial killer make the serial killer documentary. I feel like it's a big thing now, isn't it? They always go, "Oh, he was the perfect killer, you know, he was handsome, he was charming, he could lure people, he had a tight little tushy, and he's so fucking hot," and then they show you a picture of the killer and this guy looks like fucking Mr. Bean. It's like, that guy's only going to murder someone if it's by a mishap. That's a guy with a banana skin on his welcome mat and a severed head in his fridge. And you know, that's the only kind of documentary where they get that horny. They get too horny in that documentary. You never switch on the History Channel and they're like, "These filthy pyramids were made by a dirty army of subs." I did work in a school as well. I worked in a school as a therapist for a while in a school for teenagers. But you know, it's just a school. Harry Potter and the School of Teenagers. That's the thing. That's the thing that happens in Northern Ireland is all secondary schools have a mandatory therapist, and they don't have that down south, and they don't have that in England. Something good actually happened here, and it's necessary because I feel like teenagers, you know, you can be too quick to dismiss the feelings of teenagers, can't you? You know, like, teenagers are the only people who can come up to you and say, "I'm in love," and you're perfectly within your rights to go, "No, you're not." Would you do a fucking dish, will you? Get them fucking crayons. I don't even know what that means. But you know what? That's a callback to a joke I haven't done yet. I like to push boundaries. One of them is time. It's a future joke. Your grandkids are gonna love it. Self-awareness isn't curative on its own, is it? Anyway, yes, it was a step in the right direction in terms of the attitude that we have towards mental health and young people, you know. Like, it baffles me, it's wild to me that there's still people out there who are like against the idea of looking after kids' mental health. Like, it's a real thing. Like, there's this video on Instagram where these parents took their kids to a safari, right? And they rolled down the window and an ostrich leans in, right? And the kids are freaking the fuck out. They're like, "Drive!" And the parents are like, "Nah, man, this is going to look great in the gram. This is going to do numbers." And surely enough, there's people in the comments going like, "Well, it's just child abuse. You just filmed child abuse, didn't you?" You know? And you know, that's true. But then among those comments, you'll find cunts who go like, "These kids are getting too soft these days. These kids are getting too woke. They need to be allowed to play in the mud." I'm like, how many fucking ostriches did you have to fight off as a child? Tony from Armagh. You fucking blimp. But But it's a step in the right direction because 9/11 happened when I was in primary school, right? And that's not the bit you laugh at, but I'll take it. I'll take it. There's Osama bin Duffin over there. So that's just that guy's name. But this thing as well is the thing about Northern Ireland is everyone fucking knows each other. I saw all your names in the tickets. I could have done an incredibly tailored stand-up show to each and every one of you. I could Google all your names. Hey, don't you hate it when your name's Saul Duffin and you don't talk to your sister no more? Do you have a sister?
Yeah.
Do you? Do you talk to her? Used to. You don't see this in the crowd work clips on TikTok, isn't it? Or it's comedian uncovers audience member's grief and then destroys him? Is that what I'm doing? Am I meant to destroy you? Imagine if I was like, and she's here tonight, please look at me. Surprise, surprise. Drinking wrong. Yeah, it's a step in the right direction towards attitudes towards mental health because when I was a child, 9/11 happened when I was in primary school, and the extremely therapeutic approach that my school took to us seeing 9/11 was the day after to make us draw it. That was a real tragic day for stickmen, that one. No one talks about 9/12. When no one in St. Joseph's Primary School could find a yellow or orange crayon. Imagine even just during the Troubles, it's like, math men stole my daddy, get you them fucking Crayolas out right now. We're gonna scribble our way to peace.
Anyway, it's a step in the right direction. Like whenever I was younger, you used to have to deal with your difficult feelings by listening to shit music, like Linkin Park. And if you can't remember Linkin Park, they were banned for people who didn't know whether they had depression or an anger problem. You know, you'd have been like, I don't know if I want to self-harm or put my fist through this wall, and Linkin Park would be there for you to say, hey, why not both? I tried listening as an adult, right? And to see if I still related, and do I still relate? Because the lyrics to one of the songs is, forfeit the game before somebody else takes you out of the frame and puts your name to shame, cover up your face, you can't win the race, the pace is too fast, you just won't last. I used to listen to that and go, this song is absolutely about my 11 plus. This is maybe Chester Bennington has a protractor too.
People say, hey, being a therapist, like, that must be a good skill to have, must make you a really good friend to your friends when they're depressed. It does not. I am too into it. But like, my friends, whenever they have problems and they talk to me, I'm like, tell me more, and they're like, are you hard? I'm like, absolutely, tell me more. Too into it. So I've stopped trying to be therapeutic to my friends whenever they feel sad, and I think the thing to do now is to just bake them something. I just bake them a wee bun or whatever, right? And that doesn't even work either, because my friends are sometimes like, well, I did want to talk to you about my eating disorder, look, but thank you for the Colin Caterpillar cake. I'm sure my roommate's really going to enjoy eating that. I'll enjoy looking at it for a bit. Maybe next time you can bring me some ice and we can pipe out a letter to my family. But I work now on a suicide hotline, a suicide prevention hotline, I should say. We don't give tips. But hey, if you like toast and bathing, why not both? See how far the extension cord goes. I've worked in a lot of call centres, and it's just nice to work in one where I'm allowed to engage with people when they tell me they want to die. Like I used to work for Sky Broadband, and they used to say, "Oh, I want to die," and I go, well, "Have you tried fixing the socket? Like, try turning it off and on again? Can I speak to an adult?" I think I'm just happy not to have to learn the fucking phonetic alphabet again. Do you remember that shit? Anyone here worked in the call centre? Yes? Yeah. Do you remember the fucking phonetic alphabet? That's bullshit, man. You know what I really hated about the phonetic alphabet was that for like every 2 or 3 cool ones, there's a lame one. It's like Mike, November, Oscar, Papa. Alpha. Alpha, bravo, Charlie. It's lame. And I you know what? I love this job. It's the suicide hotline. It's my favourite job I've ever had. And obviously I can't talk in depth about the sort of stuff that people say on the hotline because it's confidential. But what I can tell you is a lot of people call the suicide hotline to have a wank, and I don't know why.
And I don't know why. I don't know why they do that. I think it's because is that a sympathetic? Oh, that's quite. Oh yeah, loads of them. No idea why. I think it's because the suicide hotline's free and sex hotlines are not.
Like budget OnlyFans for people, and I think maybe they just want to hear a nice voice or something, and well, they've shit out of luck if they get me, but because it operates down south, so whenever they hear me, it's like, what's going on? Or expect some buttery Monaghan tones. They're getting fuck all, But yeah, a lot of people call the old helpline to have a wank. I think there's some similarity between the sort of services that they're actually looking for. Like a sex line. One takes you to the edge, one talks you off a ledge. But similar services. And there was this one time where this guy kept calling over and over again, and he was wanking. And he was hiding his number, so we couldn't block his number, so we had to just keep picking up the phone going, hello, and he would be wanking. We'd put the phone down over and over again. Last time I did this, someone asked me, how did I know he was wanking? I'll tell you, it's because he sounded quite wet. He made wet noises, but also crucially, sometimes he would say, I'm wanking. And that's when I was on to him, I think this guy might be having a wank. So he was calling, we were picking up, he was wanking, putting the phone down, over and over again. 6 hours we were fucking edging this guy like a fucking wanking Sisyphus, pushing his cock up a hill. To the point where I was almost like, should we just finish him off? Should we just let him finish? Like, we'll let it happen, And I spoke to my manager about it, and sometimes when you're in charge of something for too long, you become out of touch. And this is, how you can tell. Because my manager said, "How do you know it's the same guy?" And I was like, "Because he's wanking. He's the only guy wanking. He's the only guy wanking today. It's distinctive. You can't wank with an accent." We're never picking up the phone and going, "Nah, this guy sounds circumcised." I think it's someone else. Eventually I lost the rag with him and I picked up the phone and I went, "Just give up!" And it was someone else. So I'll see you in the job centre, but I mean, maybe that's a good thing to come of AI, Maybe you should just wank the robot or whatever. I read this thing as well that they said in 2015, they said in 10 years, women are going to be having more sex with robots than men, and there's about 3 days left. They need to up their game. Women need to be fucking a lot more robots if they want to make the figures here, And I just think it's sad as well that anytime we make a new technology, our first response is, but how can we fuck it? We found the cure for cancer. Yes, but is it wet? Can it go in a microwave? 14 years I've been doing this. 14 years I've been doing stand-up comedy, just like running there. And whoa! And I often don't tell crowds that, because depending on the gig, sometimes that's a little sad. Sometimes you're doing, stand-up in an attic to 3 people for a £5, and you're like, I've been doing this a decade, and they're like, well, you should quit for a decade. We're taking like 14 years, that's enough time to raise 13 kids, or 1 good kid. 13 years is a long time, man. 14 years, long time. In 14 years, Steve Martin went from doing open mics to doing the biggest arenas and rooms in his country. In the same 14 years, I have gone from doing open mics to running an open mic. Started from the bottom, now we in charge of a bit of the bottom. Yeah, post forward to the bottom. And in some ways, by running a comedy open mic, I've kind of made mental illness my life, because I think the only thing more depressing than hearing someone say that they want to kill themselves is someone who probably should kill themselves telling jokes. At least that's what my clients say when they see me performing. I think... You okay? Okay, sounded like a sore knee, if you know what I mean. It was a good... you know, I've got 3 cats. I know the sound of different bumps. You know, there's a 2-paw jump from upstairs. There's a stubbed knee. You know what I mean? Anyway, yeah. Sorry, it's incredibly niche observational humour to people who banged their knee in a different room. I think running a comedy open mic is actually a service to the world, because you're providing a voice to lots of different people, lots of different, interesting, smart people, lots of different, interesting, smart, mentally ill, ugly people, like me. And you know, because stand-up's one of the last things you can do and be successful at while ugly. You know, there's no Susan Boyle in stand-up. We're all Susan Boyle. You know? I mean, even look at Ricky Gervais. Like, look at him. Like, that's a guy who clearly only learned to tell jokes to distract you from the smell. And I think because there's a certain relatability to it, that people think they can maybe provide you advice in it without ever doing it in your life. You know, like extended family or something will sometimes say to you, have you tried being on TV? And I was like, I've actually been on TV. Has anyone seen me on TV? Woo! Oh fuck, okay, then this joke's ruined. But usually no one's seen it, but I appreciate you all the same. It's like, I mean, like if you play guitar, no one goes to you like, here, just take your CV to Lady Gaga. See what happens. See what she does. Why aren't you doing the Eras tour? You know, like I think sometimes people maybe take it as a personal affront that you remotely think that you're funny enough to try something like this. You know, like sometimes people will say to you, like you'll say, oh, I do a bit of stand up, and they'll go, well, I've never heard of you, and I'm like, well, you're my uncle. You definitely should have heard of me. You should get that checked out, Uncle John, will you? But it never bothered me that I was doing it for this long without technically making it. It didn't bother me until I saw my friend Michael. My friend Michael was at my very, very first ever gig, and he was a bit intense, and he was a bit into himself. He was really into himself, and he was very much like, I'm going to the straight to the top, kid, and I'm taking you with me. And then I never saw him again. A lot of people do stand up have issues with their father. I have a great relationship with my father. He's a great dad. Gave me father issues. He's like, I'm going straight to the top, kid. I'm taking you with me. I'm just off to get some cigarettes here. I'll see you in a decade and a half. And you know, he was an odd gentleman, because he told me at his first gig, what made him want to do stand-up was that he got no laughs at all the entire set, and then someone came up to him afterwards and said, I didn't find that funny one bit, but I couldn't take my eyes off you the whole time. And he was like, that's how I knew I wanted to do stand-up. I was like, I think that guy who couldn't take his eyes off you because you look like you might be armed. Like I think you might not make people feel safe. But I didn't say for a decade and a half after. I saw him this year at the Edinburgh Fringe, and it was a real delight to see him. He did a show, and then he had me on at this gig he had later in the afternoon. I went to that gig later in the afternoon, and the sound check found me, the sound test guy found me, and he said, is going to be able to perform today? Is he alright? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I saw him a couple of hours ago. He seemed perfectly alright. And that's when fell out of a toilet stall behind me, clutching about 8 pints, shouting, I've been spiked! I've been spiked! Incredibly, I'm like, I'm glad you got to enjoy 7 of those pints before you got to that 8th spiked one there. And then he came on stage, and he gave really some of the worst stand-up comedy I've ever seen in my life. And in a way, it was almost a thing of beauty. I feel like I was watching it, but it also scared me, because when Michael came off stage, he like shook my hand. He was like, "Follow that." This guy thinks he killed it, and I think, you know, it's scary when you see delusion in stand-up, because you go, what if I'm the same? What if I'm the exact same as that guy? What if I'm that guy? You know, what if I'm him? Because, like, you know, there's a very thin line. You know, like, are you the guy who's up stage talking truth to power and giving relevant, relatable insights like Louis C.K., or are you just jerking yourself off and making people uncomfortable like Louis C.K.? I don't know if that was a clap or if he's here tonight wanking. Incredibly misogynist set. They said that, you know, they do say now that comedians need to be more feminist, and I do feel like I am that, but only because I was quite bad at misogyny in the first place. Do you know what I mean? I don't have the joint strength to manspread. I've been going to yoga classes to be a better misogynist, you know? People go, hey, do you cackle? I'm like, yeah, all the time. 100% success rate, bro. You know? I tried to be a better misogynist. I tried to do some workplace sexual harassment, but I work from home, so I'm now paying an out-of-court settlement to my dog. But it scared me, you know, seeing Michael like that, because there's this phenomenon in boxing, it's a term, they call it a journeyman. It's basically, that's when someone is sort of good at something but not amazing, and these people fill out the ranks and they're there for years. They live their life there, getting the shit beat out of them, and stand-up has that too, where sometimes you'll go to a room and there'll be a headliner and he's been at it for fucking 50 years, and it's mad that he's not quit, because there's no joy in his eyes, and when the other acts are on stage, he's at the back of the room, flipping through photos of his phone, photos of his phone, that's how sad it is. That's how sad it is. He's got film photos of his phone. Oh, do you remember when I had a phone? God. I'm gonna name check him. There's a guy called he's been doing it a million years. Somebody just go, fuck. Great comedian, but once I saw him at the back of a room in a comedy gig flipping through photos on his phone, and he came to a wedding day photo of himself, and I heard him say, oh well, and move on. Sad. It made me sad, and I thought, what if I'm that guy, you know, somebody that you pass on the way up and the way down, and maybe I should be embarrassed that I've been at this long and I'm still playing addicts in pubs and weirdly content about it.
I think really it's actually kind of self-indulgent of me to go watching do so badly made me think of myself, but really I think what we're talking about is the concept of shame, which is in therapy, you know, it's not just the word shame, it's like guilt, but more. Guilt is I've done something wrong, shame is I am something wrong, and I started thinking, oh, maybe there's just something wrong with me that I don't know about, that other people can see, that's maybe stopped me from being like successful at this, and it's quite discouraging, you know.
And I'm not usually easily discouraged. I think the most discouraged I've ever been was when I did drama for A-level, right? Hear me out. And I did drama for A-level, and I had to do a play for my A-level, and in that play I had to play the role of a lawyer who was a pervert. And that was my A-level, was like other people were learning about the Treaty of Versailles and trigonometry. I was groping my classmates in court. That was my A-level.
Guilty, not guilty, horny. That was me.
And you know the best part? I failed. I got an F in it, and when I looked at the feedback, they said, look, McGibbon was believable as a lawyer, but not as a pervert. I need to remind you here, I was 18 years old at this time. I was living my life method as a pervert, working every day. I was fucking Daniel Spray Lewis. I was busting Hoffman. But it was, you know, it was depressing, and I decided I didn't want to be an actor, and I quit. And you know, sometimes quitting is the right thing to do, and then so it makes that. But thinking that quitting is the right thing to do makes me go, well, maybe I should quit stand-up if I feel like there's something wrong with me as a stand-up. And it was very unusual, because I'm usually quite an optimistic person. I feel like I'm the sort of person who I don't, but I feel like I'm the sort of person who would clap when the plane lands, and they get a lot of stick, don't they? People who clap when the plane lands get a lot of stick. And you know, I mean, you wouldn't be clapping that much if the plane didn't land, I'll tell you that. There's nobody applauding on 9/11, depending on who you ask. But, 4 more years of this con.
But yeah, you know, I just think, you know, maybe the people who clap when the plane lands are right. You know, maybe we should celebrate when things go well. You know, when I do that now, I clap when the plane lands, I'm there, you know. Whenever the taxi arrives on time, I'm there, I'm clapping, you know. Whenever I reach the peak of orgasm, I'm there, I'm clapping. My partner's like, I need to come too, and I'm like, Sarah, why can't you just be happy for me? She's like, my name's Jenny. And I know I'm meant to figure this out maybe at the end of the hour, but really I think the answer is acceptance, isn't it? Because, you know...
There's this thing in counselling called the paradoxical theory of change, and basically what that is nothing about you, particularly internally, is going to change unless you first accept it. And the phrase from the psychologist who coined it, Carl Rogers, was that the curious paradox is, when I accept myself, then I change. And that's true, you know, because I don't like my height, and I accept that, and now I'm 6'5". I don't know what acceptance looks like in this scenario. I don't know what acceptance looks like in most scenarios.
I think what it just means is that sometimes, fighting against something will only perpetuate it in your life, What I'm saying is don't take your fucking autistic children to Lourdes, will you? For Jesus Christ's sake. Stop that.
You ever hear about, you know about Lourdes? Yeah. So it's this like holy pool that the Virgin Mary told people to take themselves to when they have an ailment and it's going to heal them. So a lot of old people go there with a broken leg and they leave with verruca. If I wanted to swim with somebody who had a contagious disease, I'd go to the Shankill Wavemaker. But I feel like you're maybe sending the wrong message to autistic people, you know what I mean? Like, whenever you're going, like, get you under that water right there, like, what are you fucking expecting to happen when they come up? And like, you know what, I don't remember a single thing about trains. Why do you keep dropping matchsticks in front of me? Fuck up. But we need to accept people who are different. Some people are LGBTQ+, some people are LGBTQ+1. That's if you're gay and Argo. Millennial pride. Interesting. I think, like stereotypes have moved on. I almost feel bad for bisexual people because all the stereotypes for bisexual people are they're really cool, they're really comfortable in their own skin. I almost feel bad for the homophobic parents who are trying to out their kids. You have to sit down their son and go, son, we found the dungarees. We have to Lucy and Yak, son. We found them. We found the septum piercing, son. Let's talk. But yeah, I'm going to Pride this year. Yeah. I like Pride. I think my favourite thing about Pride, weirdly though paradoxically, is the anti-Pride protest. I really enjoy that because I quite like the language they use. They go, these people are practising sodomy, they're practising homosexuality. I'm like, they're not practising, mate. They're ready to go pro. You never ask someone are they gay? They go, nah, mate, amateur league. I'm just in training for the 100-metre rim. But yeah,
Have I been talking this fast the whole time? Have I been indecipherable? Okay, because this feels like it's going all right. But I suddenly had a little fear there where people going like, just laugh, and he'll go after a while. I think. What's that? Oh, that was like an alarm that sounded like some food is done. Is that right, Mike?
It's high blood sugar.
High blood sugar, is it? Oh shit. Oh yeah. Well, fair enough then. Sometimes some comedians give people shit for their phone going off, and it's like, I'm not gonna give you shit for staying alive. Though you did tell me your children are diabetic. Is it their blood sugar or yours?
Yeah, no, it's theirs.
Oh, it's theirs. Oh fuck. Should you be here? Imagine. No, never mind. There's nothing funny to be said. I think that's probably why that I've never made it, so to speak. Just talking about the farts. I'm quite a lowbrow guy, and I think maybe that sometimes that you can use those lowbrow things to talk about things that are a little bigger, and I think that's what I like about working in a suicide hotline, and it's also what I like about running a comedy open mic, because I think when you're closer to death, whether that be on stage or at your own hands, sometimes you find the ability to speak at greater depth and vulnerability about stuff that you wouldn't normally, be able to speak about. There's a certain honesty that suicidal people are able to find. And sometimes that honesty is, you're not very good at the suicide hotline, and sometimes it's, you don't even fucking know what funny is, right? You don't even fucking know. They're able to find, sometimes, when a joke doesn't land, suddenly there's a little moment of vulnerability from people who have never spoken about a feeling in their life. It's incredible. And, I feel like sometimes a closeness to death, not just in stand-up but in life. Like, I don't know, if you ever love someone so much you look at them and you go, oh, I'm going to be dead sad when you die. Like, I'm going to be real. Do you ever look at someone that you love and go, oh, it's going to be real sad? Like, sometimes I'm speaking, my partner will notice this look on my face and she'll go, hey, why are you looking at me like that? That's a strange old look. And I'll go, well, it's because, I'm thinking about one day maybe you'll be dead, and that'll make me very sad, and I don't know how I'm really going to cope with that. I don't really know how I'm going to get along without you. I mean, maybe I'll get a fucking dog or something, but I don't know how many dogs it's going to take to fill the hole. It's 6 dogs probably at least. That's a lot
a lot of fucking dogs. Now I'm thinking about the finances of maintaining my growing dog habit. And it's, a pedigree chum, if I love them enough, I don't know, what's the amount of, what's the kind of dog food that you give to a dog that you actually like compared to a dog that you're just keeping alive? And how expensive it is. And then she says, well, look, I just want you to keep your hands on the steering wheel right now.
I'll probably die first. I don't look after myself enough. I went to the GP lately for I had this problem with my knees. My knees were quite sore, and I went to the GP and he made me strip to my underwear, and he went, ugh, which is like, don't leave with that, mate. That's a bit too strong. And he was like, no, he said, you've got the flattest feet I've ever seen, and I was like, oh, okay. And he said, your body is like a house built on sand. And I was like, that's bad, isn't it? Whenever your GP starts using biblical metaphor to roast you. Got a heart like a mustard seed. Your arteries will deny you 3 times before the cock crows. It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for you to take a decent shit.
Yeah. Old folks homes say a lot of last words, and I hear that there's somebody mentioned once as a potential idea for old folks homes, because the money's there less and less, that they should just start doing sponsorships. And I'm talking like F1, where they're wearing the jumpsuits with the sponsorship badges on them. I'm like, I think we should sponsor old people and just have just people coming in to support them, and with scarves and everything, And I feel like you could really monetize that in a way. Like maybe you're seeing your granddad and he's saying his last words and he pulls you close and he goes, son, if you use the offer code Great Beyond at Domino's Pizza, you get a free garlic dip. And then he's out of there. I heard that Queen Elizabeth's last words were like in her diary were only five words long, and I didn't even read the article after that. I don't want to know what they were. I think it's much better imagining what they could have been. 'Twas I that killed Sir Diana. Hell's gates open for me. I have one more. Charles, please release my throat. Steve Jobs, his last words were supposedly, oh wow. And I think that's very cool, I like the idea of leaving people with a bit of mystery, I want my last words to be, right, I'm going to get my family and my kids around me, right, and I'm going to beckon the youngest one in, and I'm going to go, I got your nose, and now I'm taking it with me. I think, yeah, it's just the nature of it. My granddad died on the same year that my cat died, and I noticed, thank you. I brought one of my mourners here tonight to celebrate the life. And what I noticed is that both of them were absolutely gutted, but in the moment I found myself crying more for the cat than for my granddad, and I think that the truth there is, therapeutically they say that grief is cumulative. Sometimes you're trying to grieve for something big, but something small that sets you off. But I actually think that it's because a cat is just always there in the way that no grandparent can ever hope to compete with. You never wake up in the morning and find your granddad purring at the foot of your bed. And my granddad, my cat never bit me, but my granddad, when he got those false teeth, they were gnashing, And my cat always remembered who I was. But a weirdly anti-granddad joke. I will say, in my granddad's defence, he never locked eyes with me while he was taking a shit. He was very shy. But yeah, I think acceptance is the answer, isn't it? Because I think when I think of in Edinburgh, who was ill in terms of his mental health, really, and wasn't well, and I feel selfish sometimes for seeing someone who was clearly troubled and a bit delusional and going, oh no, what about me though? And I think really maybe what was coming up was just my own shame and inability to accept myself in the same way that never really accepted himself as someone who wasn't making it, you know? And they do say, in theory, that when you accept something, that's whenever it can change. And I think when you do that, you can find the strength to be truly, you know, confident to come up on stage or to call a suicide hotline and find the courage within yourself to say, I'm wanking. That's the end of the show. Thank you so much.
Road gets cold, there's no spring in the middle this year. And I'm the new chicken clucking open hearts and ears. Oh, such a prima donna, sorry for